So the background for Athena, and I'll say as a first year regional chair, this is the first time I've had exposure to how these working groups work within YPO, is basically the board had a number of initiatives that as a regional chair, I could choose one to participate in. And so an initiative around, bringing women into the organization up to the age of 55, for me, met my passion, as that's been something I've been working on over the last decade of increasing the number of women in YPO and outside of YPO, working on gender and women in leadership initiatives. So it was a working group established by the board, consisting of representatives from the membership council and the chapters and regions committee, representing all the 3 super regions in YPO, and really trying to address the slow pace of expanding gender diversity within YPO. A couple of data points that maybe not everybody's fully aware of. Approximately YPO issues waivers, hundreds of waivers every year, new members being brought into the organization using a waiver. Approximately half of all the waivers that are used are age waivers. And especially for women, they're twice the rate of using an age waiver as men would. So, and this is the most common barrier that the membership team hears from chapters, is age as this issue, especially for women. Many people ask, what about other opportunities for other minority groups within the that we might want to bring into YPO? The reality is right now, women is the global issue for all regions around the world. Claire and her team have been working, and as of this year, new members admitted into YPO are asked to voluntarily self-identify on some other race and ethnicity characteristics. And when we all go through renewals this year, we will start to be able to have the opportunity to self-identify as well. And once we have that data in place, we can then have the opportunity to potentially consider other initiatives beyond gender, recognizing that with YPO having a global presence in 450 plus chapters around the world, what diversity means is very localized in different countries and different regions where YPO exists. And so it's much more complicated, much more nuanced, much more complicated, much more fraught with other issues. So that's a bit of the background. What is it? So it's regionally driven. So this is an opt-in pilot program for 3 years. Regions can choose or not to participate. They can choose to participate right now at the launch, or they can choose to join in 6 months later or a year later. This is for those who really want to drive this type of initiative, making this tool available. It allows chapters to recruit female applicants in up to the age of 55. Y chapters can recruit up to from 45 to 49. Integrated chapters 45 to 55, and gold chapters can recruit new women members directly into a gold chapter from between 48 and 55. And it's important to note all other membership criteria must be met. No waivers allowed. All other criteria must be met. And then chapters, of course, if chapters have different criteria or different standards, chapters have final authority over anybody who joins a chapter. So it's not meant to go around chapters. It's not meant to bypass any other procedures. These are high quality, absolute qualified members. The goal is doubling the number of new women members recruited for each participating region. So if you look at the last 3-year run rate, we want to double that for the next 3 years. So for my region, this means we go from adding around 50 women a year to adding 100 women a year, just to get a sense of what those so can we add an extra 50 women a year by having our gold chapters participate and getting all this focus? I think we all believe we absolutely can. The other piece that's important, again, is it's not just recruiting, it's how that integration goes. So we want to make sure retain women joining under Athena is the same rate as members globally. And also of note is increasing the rate of female members who successfully transition from Y to Gold to be at parity with the rate at which male members transition. And so by accelerating gender diversity within Gold, we believe this is going to be one of the keys to achieving a more equitable rate of transitioning, to make Gold chapters more appealing, to increase the number of women there. The other key, as we know, to success in YPO is forum placement. So we're asking chapters who are participating to commit to 100% forum placement within 60 days, and to add women members to chapter and regional leadership roles, especially in membership roles. So just to dive a little bit into detail, Y chapters can already recruit new members up to the age of 49. You just have to use waivers. In this case, for women members, you don't need to use a waiver, an age waiver. They have to meet, again, all the other YPO criteria. If they don't meet the other YPO criteria, you got to go back and use your other waivers, right? So Athena is not a blanket, waiver. It's purely on age. Everything else has to be met. One thing Y chapters are going to want to think about, okay, how do you think about, if we're bringing somebody in who's 47, 48, or 49 years old? How do we want to, how do we feel about forum? How do we feel about the onboarding and all that? I encourage Y chapters to think out of the box. Do you partner with a local Gold chapter so that maybe she can attend, get to know people in both areas? Do you have her stay in a chapter forum after graduation? Does she start in a Y chapter but go to join a Gold forum? Does the Gold chapter admit her instead of the Y chapter? YPO now has this whole secondary membership policy, which is an awesome way to bridge. And remember, chapters can choose how much, what the dues are they charge. One could imagine, creating some situation here where the member automatically had, a secondary membership in one of the chapters, and the chapters just work together on how they think about those dues. Again, I'm going to hit this point a few times. To be successful, have women on your interview team and be ready to place a new female member in forum right away. We also want chapters to think about how they're going to engage a male spouse partner and, or have working spouse partner programs. And I'd say, especially for those of us on this call who are in regional leadership roles, in Pacific, we are going to be looking at launching more regional male spouse partner forums, because we may not have enough critical mass in any one chapter, or working spouse partner forums. And again, there's all kinds of different combinations. We also have one of our chapters in the region who's gone completely mixed forums, where members, spouses, men, women are in every forum. Those are other options to consider. Chapters can think flexibly. I think this is an area, because we have such low engagement right now of male spouse partners, that the region may want to take a little bit more of a leadership role. For integrated chapters, it's kind of the sweet spot. There's, integrated chapters can admit women up to the age of 55 without a waiver. They don't have to graduate at 50. For integrated chapters, it's really just kind of wide open, a whole new tool you can use to bring women in. Yeah, advise the same points. Have women on your interview team. Make sure you're going to place her in forum right away. Think about male spouse partner, working spouse partner programs. And for Gold chapters, where the biggest changes. And Gold chapters can currently bring members in at the age of 48, right? That's the existing rule. You can transition at 48 if you want. So this allows Gold chapters to recruit new to YPO women members between the ages of 48 and 55 directly in. A lot of Gold chapters I talk to, when I say all of the YPO criteria must be met, the first question is, what is that criteria? So we have created a flyer just especially for Gold chapters, just to remind them of the criteria, because as we all know, Gold chapters are not used to this recruiting. We're encouraging Gold chapters to appoint an Athena officer or a recruiting officer, somebody that membership can contact for training and for giving access to Salesforce and access, so that we can we can make sure that people are getting placed in forum and that the recruitment process is going swiftly. Again, one thing that may be very appealing to gold chapters is YPO the board just passed a new policy where spouse partners who may now separately qualify to join as members pay no initiation fee and half the annual dues. These are the YPOI initiation fees and dues. Chapters get to decide what they charge. But this is the idea from YPO International to make it easier. And in a lot of regions, we do have, this has been a big request around having an easier pathway for spouse partners who, especially now, once you're hitting 50, may be more likely to be able to qualify independently on their own. Same points about women members on interview team, be ready to place and form right away. The other opportunity, and I'll say, is to leverage YPO and regions can support with membership training, forum training, and taste of YPO. Because again, gold chapters don't normally do a lot of these functions. YPO is offering some, regions can support with some. You may want to partner with your local Y chapter. You know, I know in some areas we have Y and gold chapters who are fairly tightly connected. That's an easy partnership because the Y chapter may be doing these initiatives anyway. The other option that's available is to have Atlas do these services for you. And to explain for a second, what Atlas is, because gold chapters have not been trained on Atlas, are not informed about what it is. I'm not 100% clear if all regions have. But Atlas is a vetting and onboarding service that YPO has launched to standardize and utilize best practices in bringing new prospects on board to YPO. So, you know, it is comprised of YPO member champions who have joined. These are former regional chairs, chapter chairs, council members, real YPO international leaders who are doing the interviewing, who are supporting in the onboarding, and who are really using YPO best practices to bring new members on board. Atlas will provide taste of YPO. They'll do third-party certification. They'll interview and vet to the YPO international standards. They'll collect dues and fees, including a chapter fee of $3,500 US, that then once the person's placed in the chapter, they'll give that money back to the chapter. They will do taste of YPO, forum fundamentals, microforum, you'll get them registered for a network. And then when the prospect's ready to go back into a chapter, in the case where the chapter has come up with the prospect, the chapter gets that prospect back right away. In the case where the prospect came in through the website, ypo.org blindly, the regional membership director will work with the prospect to identify the right local chapter. And then of course, chapters have their own right to interview and have whatever standards they want. So if a chapter wants to use the service, Atlas has this ready to serve program where you sign a free agreement. It's all free. The chapter signs this agreement with Atlas, and Atlas performs all these services and gives candidate again back to the chapter. So this is it's also a way for chapters to potentially, if they're not ready to launch a new forum right away, but they now have this new prospect, it takes a couple months to go through all the processes within Atlas, including forum training, so that then when the chapter gets a candidate back, she's all trained up and ready to be placed in forum, and a chapter can always engage her if they want in other events that are going on in the meantime. But it's a way to get all these other trainings done, especially again for gold chapters who may not be used to doing them. So I'm just going to give an example of, in the Pacific region, what we're doing. We've briefed the Rexes. We're doing a call this week with all the chapter chairs in the region. We're launching next week a regional recruiting women task force where we're trying to fire up and engage the women that we have in the region to be supportive of both identifying prospects, doing some outreach to potential prospects that we've identified, to help with onboarding and create a little bit of a buddy system for a new female member coming in. And then we're doing a virtual prospect event in a few weeks. And our intent is to do those quarterly to really support chapters in these efforts, as we recognize that not every chapter has a critical mass of women to be able to really help a new candidate feel like, YPO is really the place that she belongs. So what chapters can really do now is start identifying prospects, add women to membership committees, add members to the chapter board, identify forms for placement, do some form refresher trainings, if necessary, especially in gold chapters where you may or may not be used to onboarding, launching new forums. Think about male spouse partner engagement. And especially for the Athena working group team, reach out to your regional leadership if you need help or if you have questions, because then that can come back to, through your regional chair, can come back to the Athena ongoing implementation team so that we know the tweaks, right? This is a pilot program, and we're going to be having quarterly calls with all the regions participating in the pilot program so that we can share best practices. What's working? What are you guys doing? What are you learning that works? How are you managing this? So that we can really, have this in place as a model that's working, that's successful, and that potentially, could certainly be expanded to other regions and eventually all of YPO if as folks are willing to participate.